So number 4 in my occasional series of videos where I talk about music that had some significance for me. This time we go a little bit weird. Because between the mid-60s and maybe the first 2 or 3 years of the 70s, what came under the banner of pop music just exploded. So instead of just having, well, shall we say, rock and roll, soul, and pop music itself, all of a sudden there were lots and lots of different ideas being explored, and I love to explore them. In the previous video I talked about how I became interested in acoustic music, and that led me into the folk scene eventually. But also I had friends who introduced me to different kinds of music, different things, and I followed them all with interest. Not everything appealed to me. Sometimes I would pick up on an occasional song, but not really take up on the whole genre. Sometimes until much later, sometimes not at all. There was people at school that introduced me to the likes of Curved Air. I liked that. But Black Sabbath, not quite so much. My best friend was a big fan of people like Slade and T-Rex. He also introduced me to Status Quo. I love a bit of Quo, even now. And then I had another friend who introduced me to this next piece of music. And this started a lifelong love of the music of this band. Even though when I first heard it, I thought, what the heck is going on? It's not exactly typical of what you might think of when you think of this band, but if I press play and slowly turn the volume up, don't really need to turn it up much, and you'll start to hear some strange discordant sounds. And I was introduced to this album by a friend who, I think he had a rather scratched and battered copy which he wanted to replace, so he gave me his old copy, and I listened to it on the record player we now had at home, and I took it to university and listened, and I started listening to other things by this band as well. Somebody actually bought me their next album for a birthday, which I thought was very generous, and is actually still one of my favourites. But you listen to this, and you think, my 18-year-old brain was listening to this and thinking, what's going on? And the other thing is, this is a piece of music with no real words in it, and it takes up an entire side of an old vinyl album. It's about 22, 23 minutes long, and it just goes into lots and lots of different sections and different themes and different odd little bits like this, and you think, what is that? Wow. And you could just sit and listen and explore and think, where did they get these ideas from? And if you haven't actually realised yet, this is a piece by Pink Floyd, and it's called Atom Heart Mother. And there's your basic melodies, but there's sound effects going on, there's discordant things happening, there's moments in this piece where you think, that's not music, that's just atmosphere, it's texture, it is music, really. And I've always found it fascinating the way different people's musical brains work and come up with ideas. I've longed to actually explore what I can do with my music in a longer form, if you like, using different kinds of sounds. So there we go. There's an awful lot of this, so I think we'd better leave it there. But There you go. This is me being introduced to what became known as prog. Yeah, that took a long, long journey. One which I'm still enjoying. And it's as far away from folk music as you could possibly get, I think. Anyway, thank you for listening. That'll do, I think.